Welcome to Cat the Minion YouTube channel. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. This is Adventures with Plastic Crack, and I'm talking about Latina Barbies, Latina Barbie friends in the Mattel Barbie line. And what I've got here is a 1989 Beach Blast Teresa. This is the only doll I have with this face mold. It was used for 82 or 80. I'm not sure. It might be 1980, it might be 1981, but they came out with Black Barbie in 1980, and they also had Hispanic Barbie, which I really think she was 82. So for a really long time, they were all called anything that was Latin in any way or Hispanic was just called Hispanic. The language is different now, but that's okay. So we've got this Beach Blast Teresa here. Now this character came out in 1987, and with the Island Fun line. And she would have appeared in the beach lines in 1983, Sensational Malibu, 1985, Tropical, as Hispanic Barbie. I think they used this face for a Hawaiian Barbie, but I'm not sure. They might not have. It might have just been the Steffie mold. This face was also used extensively for Black Barbie and Christie throughout the early 80s, up until 1987 when they switched it to the 1987 Christie face. And often the only difference would be that Hispanic Barbie's eyes would be slightly greener, her skin tone would be just a little bit lighter, and a lot of the time they were almost indistinguishable. Or she might have really dark brown hair, and then Black Barbie would have black hair. There'd just be a little bit of a difference in the shade. So this head mold used extensively throughout the early 80s. Now I'm trying to get this to focus. She's moving on the stand a little bit. They discontinued this face right around 1990. And they switched to the Steffie head mold for Teresa. This is the Steffie head mold right here. This is my Perfume Pretty Whitney. So in the mid-80s, Whitney replaced PJ, who'd been around since about 1970. And PJ with brown hair, and when she changed to Whitney, was essentially a Latina character, although she was not expressly called that. But when you see the Teresa dolls from 1990 and 91 that use the Steffie mold, they're indistinguishable from Whitney. It's essentially the same doll, just that Teresa is expressly a Latina character and Whitney could be somebody else. So that's something to keep in mind. So I have Perfume Pretty Whitney here, who is more or less the same as a Teresa doll from 1990 and 91. And I also have Ultra Hair Whitney here, only who's sold in Europe instead of Brunette Barbie. And we see right around 1992 that the Steffie head mold came out of circulation because they changed Midge to the Diva head mold and they changed Teresa to her own face. So this is 1994 Spots and Dots Teresa. Gorgeous, beautiful face. She looks kind of like Salma Hayek. And you would have seen Teresa with this face all the way up until 2004, around 2006 maybe. They changed her to, when they shrunk the dolls, they gave her a new face. It was only used for maybe a year or two, 2006, 2007, maybe 2008. And then they gave her the closed mouth version of the 2006 Barbie face for Teresa and just gave her brown hair. I don't have any of those from the mid-2000s. But this is my spots and dots Teresa. She has a Dalmatian, I just didn't bring the dog out. So there's a stunning and gorgeous and beautiful. Let me stick her on the stand for a second. Sorry, that's probably loud. I should point out that I rerouted that Beach Blast Teresa, and her hair is nowhere near as puffy as it originally was. Okay, so here's this one. So you would have seen this Teresa in brunette most of the time. She would have come as a blonde a few times, like Camp Teresa, or in 1994, or Hollywood Hair Teresa. She was a redhead a couple of times. You'll see some variation beach dolls that have red hair as well. But most of the time she's brunette. And she'd also be Hispanic Barbie when they had Black Barbie, White Barbie, and Hispanic Barbie. And then later in the 90s, you would also see Asian Barbie in sets of 4. Teresa. What happened next? Okay, I'm trying to do these in order. Once they stopped using this original Teresa face, because remember this one was used on Hispanic Barbie before it was Teresa. So this is like the first actual Teresa face. Gorgeous. Oh, I dropped a shoe. No. Once they stopped using this one and they were changing her face around for a few years, there were some collector dolls that used this 1999 come on, it's gonna come to me. Generation Girl Lara face. This is a 2005 Fashion Fever Tia. I've altered her a little bit. And this face is used for every ethnicity imaginable. So she's been African American, she's been Asian, she's been blonde Barbie, but there were a few collector dolls that used the Lara face that were actually called Teresa. It was one of those, some kind of model series in, like, around 2008 or so. I can't remember what it's called, but they used the Model Muse body, and they had, like, really those, like, long, skinny, swoopy eyes with a ton of makeup. But they did use this face a couple of times for Teresa doll and other Latina dolls. Sometimes it's sort of ambiguous between Latina and Asian, but it just sort of depends on your perception. There's a lot of dolls that are sort of ambiguous or could be multiple ethnicities at the same time. So the other thing that I have, in 2004, in the Cali Girl line, they released a new doll. I have this 2005 one. She still faintly smells like coconut. They introduced a new friend called Summer. They still had Teresa with this face in 2004 and 5 in the Cali Girl line. But they introduced Summer as a new friend, and she was fairly dark-skinned, I think she was supposed to be Blaine's sister. I'm just trying to get this doll on the stand and it's not working. I'm just going to hold her up because it's not working. So they introduced Cali girl Teresa. This is the 2005 one. She came with a green wetsuit and shorts. Green wetsuit top and shorts. This is her original hair. I've changed her outfit. So they have this brand new summer face, and I'm trying to get her to stop wiggling around. It's just hard because like I said, I couldn't get her on the stand because her dress is too tight. Let me move the camera down a little bit. There she is. Try to focus that a little bit. Okay, so this is the summer face from 2004. And after that whole short Teresa face and the whole using Barbie's face for a couple years, around 2008 and 2009, especially with the Fashionistas line, they used this face for Teresa. So essentially, Summer became Teresa, usually with brunette hair and this warm skin tone. Most of the time, this version of Teresa would have green eyes. And this continued all the way up until 2014. Although, yes, they did. As Teresa. So you would see her in this original 11.5-inch / 12-inch size. You would see her in the 28-inch size and the 8-inch tall styling heads, which would be a 28-inch scale, and in the 12-inch styling heads, which would be about 40-inch scale. So there's a few different sizes of her, and possibly even miniatures as well. So this is a summer, definitely a summer, and come on. And this is the 28-inch. I think this is 2016. This one that I've redone. So you can see similar coloring, sort of reddish, light brown hair, a little bit of a tan to the skin, and green eyes. So this is the same face. It's just a lot bigger. The Latina. These Just Play 28-inch Barbies aren't labeled, so it didn't say Teresa on the package anywhere or in the advertising, but you know who it's supposed to be. And because it's the Summer head mold, and I was introduced to it as Summer when she came out in 2004, I still call it Summer. This is my 28-inch Summer in my Tenterific outfit that I made for her. I've got a couple other ones of these, and sometimes it's not explicit that she's supposed to be Latina, but you kind of can tell. This is a superhero movie one of that face. She still has green eyes. Sometimes they're like a light chartreuse, but it's still green color. She's got this blue hair. Her skin's fairly light. I've rebodied her so the body doesn't match, but you can see the same face. Where often there would be a white Barbie and then an Asian Barbie or a black Barbie in the same set, so it would be sort of assumed that she'd be the Latina one. So here's another one with these chartreuse eyes, and she's got purple hair this time. And this one is a fairy. Usually in the fairy sets they'll have one that's, again, one that's Latina and one that's African American and one that's a white Barbie. Lately they've been adding Asian dolls, which is good. We need more representation. So that's that one. In 2014, they came out with a new Latina head, and I think some of the dolls were labeled Teresa, but other ones it was labeled as Hispanic or Latina. So I just call it the 2014 Teresa face. And this one's hair needs some work, but this is that face on a curvy doll. The collector version of this is called Neysa, Neysa. And her face looks a little more plump on the curvy neck knob. She's got kind of a squarish nose. And her face is a little more square as well. I don't have one in brunette. I've got this honey blonde one from the Made to Move Barbie. And I've got this black and blue haired fashionista. She's got green eyes though, but again, she's very pale as well. Some of these are very tan. I just don't have one. There's a limited amount of everything that I can get. I have another one on a tall body. You can see that the face looks slimmer on a slimmer neck knob, and you can really see the nose line there. I've redone her a little bit, but again, I don't have one with a normal hair color, and I don't have one that's darker right now. But essentially, this doll is now Teresa, although occasionally you'll still see some that look like Summer. Now, when they were doing the Fashionistas line and they took Summer's face for Teresa, they did they retooled it a little bit and came out with a face that's really similar. So this is what I call Summer 2. And this doll, I don't think has ever been used for Teresa, but a lot of the time she looks like she could very well be. Or any other Latina character. So this one was a fashionista that I redressed. And you can see that she follows that same standard. She has, even back in the 80s though, you'd see her eyes are sort of olive. It's hard to tell here, but they're sort of olive green. Come on. I mean, they look brown here, but some of them had sort of more greenish eyes. Whitney's got blue eyes, so it's not really showing up here. They're sort of a lavender combo. So she's not a good example. But the Teresa dolls would have brown or green eyes and varying colors of reddish or brunette hair. And we see that same styling coming through on this revised Summer face here, which looks a lot like the Raquel head mold because they both came out in 2012. Very similar. Oh, come here. You can see that they look like sisters. Very similar. So the other doll that I have that's explicitly listed as Latina or Hispanic is this 2018 Happy Holidays, or not Happy, they just call it Holiday now. So she's the 30th anniversary doll, or the Latina one. She uses the the 19, oh my god, I can't even, I'm making a mess of this. I'm gonna have to start another segment. I'm trying to hurry, so I'm kind of screwing up right now. Okay. Let me get her head tilted better. Okay. So, this Latina 2018 30th anniversary holiday Barbie uses the 1999 Generation Girl Tori face. This face has only appeared a couple of other times. And this doll is gorgeous. I wish they would use this face more often. This is a little bit more similar to what the 2006 Teresa face looked like. I would say that one is like sort of puffy and soft looking, and is roughly like a mashup between these two faces. it would look like a cross between these two. These look really similar too. They look like sisters, at least in coloration. So I'm gonna have another section here and talk about other faces that they repurposed for Latina dolls that weren't necessarily created to be so. I mean, the Steffie Headmold was created for, actually for, I think she was on PJ first, but I could be mistaken. It was on somebody. It was on like one blonde doll before it was on Walk Lively Steffie. But this is a doll that was not originally Latina and sort of stepped in, and I have a bunch more that are like that. So I gotta move some of this stuff and then I will come back with those. Okay. So this is Totally Hair Brunette Barbie, 1992, and how I was talking about how Whitney was more or less equivalent to Teresa. And we see, in some cases, Brunette Barbie is also more or less equivalent. Now, in these early 90s sets where they had 4 different versions of Barbie, they would have a blonde, a brunette, a redhead, and then Black Barbie. They didn't have an Asian doll. So they didn't have a redhead for Totally Hair set, but they had, in 1993, for Paint and Dazzle, they did have a redhead, and then in 1994 for Glitter Hair, and again in 1995 for Cut and Style. So we see 1995 Cut and Style Brunette Barbie here. I didn't cut her hair, she came to me like that. And we see that we don't have a specifically Latina doll, but we see in this sort of increasing skew towards something that someone who looks a little bit more Latina than white. And I should point out too, and I meant to in the other video, in the early 90s they had the styling heads, and the styling heads were all white Barbie. They had a couple of styling heads in, I think, 1972 Christie, 1978 Christie, and 1980 or 81 Golden Dream Christie. And then in 1983 they had Pose Me Pretty Black Barbie styling head. And those all had the superstar face, except for the 72, which had the twist and turn Barbie face. But as far as I know, they did not have another black styling head Barbie until 1995. Or 94. They might have had a glitter hair one with the black version of the superstar face. But in 1995, they had... they only had this face for the styling head as the 28-inch size, scale size. And they had one that had sort of a lightish brown skin with black hair. They had a sort of tan skin with brown hair, maybe a little, this color maybe a little darker. And they had the regular blonde one too. But they all had the same superstar face version. In 1996, the next year, they made... come on. Jewel Hair Mermaid Barbie. Right, so they had the 4 dolls. They had the black doll, they had the redhead doll, they had the white doll, and they had the Latina doll. But the redhead in the Jewel Hair Mermaid was Midge, and the Black Barbie was the Christie face, which she normally was. And this time, the Latina doll was Teresa, and she had this face. And what they did that year with the styling head is they made a 28-inch scale version of this face. And they used this for Teresa, and they used it for Christie all the way up until about 2004. It could have been a little bit before then, but I know at least in 2001 they were still using a brown skin version with black hair of this in the styling head for Christy. So I did want to point that out, that there was some differences in the styling heads as well. And I believe for some reason in 2001, 2005, there was a styling head that came out with this face that was labeled as Teresa, as a brunette. Really weird. Because in 2004, instead of using this face for Christy on the styling head, they finally started using the Asha face, which was Christy at the time. This one's a 17-inch version, but just to sort of point out that they switched the styling head Christy from this to that. Right around 2004. I don't have an exact date for that yet. So that's an example of non-specific Latina faces being used for assumed or approximate or actual Latina faces. I just want to point out that this doll is freaking gorgeous. I love her. Who else? Okay, well, I'm still talking about Barbie before I go on to these other Frans. I'm going to put this here. Now, this is the Curvy Face. I don't have one in a brunette, but this one has fairly tan skin. This is my Fat Midge. She does have olive green eyes, which you'll see on a lot of the Latina dolls, too. Although, I mean, she could be Latina. Some Latinas are redhead. It's a fact. There's other ones that have a similar or darker skin tone that have come out with the curvy face. Not always on the curvy body either. Sometimes they have a original or bend and move or tall. And they'll have this face, and they'll have the coloration more similar to historically Teresa. So they'll have the brown or caramel hair, caramel skin tone, sometimes red hair, sometimes more blonde. So I just wanted to point that out, that that the curvy face has been used for all ethnicities. It's pretty much like the Lara head mold in that it's just used all around for various types of people, depending on the coloration and the screening and what body it's on, I guess. They're also, I mean, they're using the summer face and the revised 2012 summer face for a lot of different ethnicities and eye colors and skin tones and hair colors as well. So it's happening across the board that there's more diversity and there's less specifying into blocks and labels. So I should point out this one too. So this is the goddess head mold. This is another face that's sort of ambiguous. This is the coloration I was describing, that this curvy face uses this other coloration with the sort of golden and caramel tones. But this came out in 1999 and often used for Asian dolls, but it's used for a lot of different ethnicities as well. She's been blonde, she's been African American, she's been Inca and Cambodian and Mexican and everything in between. She originally came out on Fantasy Goddess of Africa Barbie. So this face, it's sort of ambiguous, but she could be Latina, we don't know. It's up to you to decide if she looks like you or your friends or your mom or your cousin. I'm just putting it out there because, again, not explicit, but she's shown up everywhere. She's been Greek before as well. And she's been Doll of the World Mexico. She's been Princess of the Incas. She's been Princess of Ancient Mexico. She's been Cambodian Doll of the World. She's been Indian Doll of the World. So this face has been global reach. She has that one. This is a beach doll, but I'm calling her Kayla. She looks like one of the Kaylas from the 2000s. So I want to point out in the Skipper line in 1987 or 88 when they came out with the new Skipper body versus the 1964. So this is the face. This is her friend Courtney, who's brunette, and in light of the fact that they came out with Black Skipper that year for Homecoming, Queen Skipper, you could infer that Courtney might supposed to be Latina. She's got brown eyes and brown hair. Her skin's a little bit more olive toned. You can see how the legs were sort of olive toned before the spotting got to them. So she might be Latina. Not explicit, but perhaps Courtney is. And this is Babysitter Courtney from 1990. She's actually got green eyes. Cool Tops Courtney came in brunette and in redhead. So we see that diversity as well. I don't think I've ever seen Courtney as a blonde. There were some Fashion Fever dolls in 2004, 2005 era that were called Courtney that I believe had the Lara face. Or perhaps the 1997 Skipper face. So that was the 87 Skipper face with a Courtney brunette. They continued Courtney as a brunette with the 1995 Skipper face. I used to have a Pizza Party Courtney. I don't have her anymore, but imagine this with green eyes and brunette hair, and you'll kind of get there. And they also had Phone Fun Courtney in 1996. And then in 1997, they changed Skipper again. I used to have a Courtney, but now I don't. So this is that 1997 Skipper face, and you would see her in brunette with like green or golden eyes as Courtney. And then they sort of changed Courtney from being more Latina, traditional tan and brunette looking to a redhead. So you see 1997, 1998, possibly 99, Courtney is a brunette, and then 2000, 2001, Courtney's a redhead. And they sort of oscillate back and forth between that. And I should point out, too, that they did that with the Stacie line because they had... Where's Stacie? Where did I put her? Oh, she's over here. In 1992, when they came out with Stacie, they diversified her. There was Black Stacie, but in 1994 they came out with Janet and then her friend Whitney, who was redhead with glasses, heart-shaped glasses. So imagine this as a mahogany redhead with crimped hair, and that was Whitney. And then in maybe even as early as 96, but definitely by 1998, Whitney was a brunette. So you would imagine, the white friend, and then Janet, the black friend, and then Whitney, either redhead or brunette, perhaps, maybe, as the Latina friend. And then they sort of continued when they had the We 3, which I don't have one of. They're like super inflated 2006 era dolls. They changed Whitney's name to Lila, but she still came either in like a tan skin brunette or with red hair, depending on the set. And then when they remade Stacie in 2010, she only looked like this for like ever and ever and ever. And then 2019, with Team Stacie, they made a brunette who could be considered Latina because there was a new Asian friend and a new black version of Stacie. So this face, with brunette hair, looking an awful lot like this babysitter Skipper doll, who doesn't have a name, but in my opinion is probably Courtney. Okay, so we have this specific Latina friend for Skipper in 2000, and then sort of a combination of this look with this face in 2019 for Stacie. So we're just assuming best guess. And this is sort of a red, like a reddish blend. I've only got the one. And then with the Cali dolls, this is a Kia, Stargazer Kia doll. But they use this face and the different versions of the closed mouth and the bottle mouth, and the other couple other versions of this face. 4-inch doll for all ethnicities, for Blonde Tommy, for Ryan, who was sort of maybe Asian, maybe Latino. They used it for Maria and Nia was the other one. Kelly's like 20 different little friends. A lot of whom would have been either redhead or brunette and tan skinned. Belinda maybe, Maura. So a lot of these kinds of, and a lot of them, you'll see these African American dolls very light skin, so she could be a dark haired Latina if you wanted her to be. But I'm just showing this because this was a face that was not explicitly Latina, but was often used for dolls that could be. But with the babysitter line, one of the skippers came with this doll. Same Kelly body, but now that they've got molded on hair, they use these different molded on hair faces for all different ethnicities. They've got them with Asian dolls, with blonde dolls, with African American, and this one with the tan skin and light brown hair, possibly Latina. A lot of them will have green eyes. This one just doesn't happen to have green eyes. She's got brown. So maybe Latina, this one. And then Chelsea, also very ambiguous, but we see possibly Latina dolls here. They don't have names. But this one's got green eyes, and I've been calling her Maria, and this one's got blue eyes, and I've been calling her Pleasance after a Hart family cousin from the 80s. So just sort of ambiguous Chelsea dolls. I don't have any of the newer ones that are girls from the Chelsea line. I have an Asian one, but I don't have the other ones. And I also wanted to show this Otto doll, because they've been producing more Chelsea boyfriends in the last few years. So she didn't have any, she had like 2 male friends ever. But they're using this Otto head mold for Chelsea's boyfriends. And sometimes he's blonde, but sometimes he has like black hair and blue eyes. And sometimes he has like slightly darker brown hair and green eyes. So again, he might be Latino. We don't know. I should also point out that this is also Nato, but Nato has a little hat on his head, and Otto does not. He has sunglasses. So we have Otto. And again, with this babysitter friend, he's got sort of dark tan, not really, like sort of like a light tan skin and brown eyes. He's got dark hair. He's, again, he could be Latino, but we don't know. I've been calling him Kevin after the other Kevin. I'm trying to get him focused in. No? Okay. There we go. So there he is. I should also point out, too, that these videos aren't scripted, so if I sound at some point like I'm confused or stumbling, it's because none of this is written down, and I'm just remembering stuff from looking at it for the last 40 years. Not quite, like 35. And then there's this friend, that 2018 Team Stacie friend, who's a boy. I've been calling him Todd after the previous Todd, but he could be Latino. Possibly. He could be a lot of different things, so I'm just throwing him in here just for consideration. Little guy. I changed his bottom half, but he's an artist. Comes with paint stuff. And then Ryan in the Fashionistas line, possibly Latino. This was supposed to be a Ryan doll, but in the production they changed it to this Ken face. This 2016 Fashionistas Ken face, but he's colored like Ryan was. So I'm assuming he's still supposed to be Ryan. Latino. They didn't have any Latino Ken faces when I was little, except for 2 in 1983 and 84, and that was sort of really similar to the other Ken face. So here's this guy, possibly Latino. And this other fashionista. I usually think of him as Hawaiian, but he could be Latino. We don't know. So a lot of these newer Ken faces are used for a bunch of different things, or they're sort of diverse but not explicit, and it's just sort of whoever people see in them, it works. But there's definitely more diversity. There was a Latin miniature Ken in 1996, 1995 with the Family Corners doll. But other than that, I don't think there was anybody until Fashionistas Ryan in 2012. And even he might have been Asian, because I think he was supposed to be Raquel's brother, but again, I'm not sure. And I still think there is a history of not really having Latino Kens. I can't really think of any. So that wasn't... I just wanted to add those male dolls as sort of an addendum to the whole thing. But most of it was just trying to review some of the faces that they've used for ostensibly Latina dolls. Like, I think this one right here. Super cute. Anyway, yes, that's it. I don't have anything else for this video right now. And I can't, there might be a couple faces that I've missed, because I either don't have them or I didn't remember what they are right now. So if you would like to see more Adventures with Plastic Crack, if you want to catch up on the mini notes in between these regular videos, those are going to be rolling out every few days, unless I decide to do them not as often. That's going to be in my Adventures with Plastic Crack playlist. Come on, there we go. I do have tarot readings for sale. The list of that's going to be down below in the description box. I've got coloring books and dark poetry, merch and prints and actual art items here for sale. I've got a couple of spare doll items on my Etsy shop too, unless they've sold by the time I put this video out. I've had depth styling gel tubes from Totally Hair Dolls and one of the little hair decorating pamphlets, and also a 1987 Barbie Dream Date fashion, which is pink. Two-tone pink. So that's on Etsy too. If you get 3 or more items, you get 17% off with this code here, 3star17, all in caps. If you found this helpful or useful or entertaining in some way and you want an energy exchange, tip jar, donate, it's PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. I may have already said that, but I don't remember. I do have a gallery on my DeviantArt, a folder in my DeviantArt gallery for doll customization. I don't know if any of these ones over here would be in that. Certainly that gothic one with the silvery blue hair, and this one when I'm finally done with her. I haven't worked on her yet, but she's gonna get some. think that's it. I'm tired, so I'm getting kind of wandery. My brain's wandering off. Yes. So I have the tarot, I have the dolls, I have the... Occasionally I put up art videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, check out my playlists tab, and stay groovy, and we'll see you later. Bye.